Breath on the glass. I saw the breath on my visor before I felt the fear. Out there in open space, your world is a circle of glass and the soft hiss of life support. The station falls around the gray shape of the dead planet below, silent and indifferent, while your body is kept alive by numbers. Pressure, oxygen, pulse. You trust the numbers. You trust the suit. You do not expect to see something alive where there is no air. But it was there. A pale bloom of fog ghosted across the outside of my helmet, as if someone had leaned close in the dark and exhaled on the glass. For half a second, I forgot how to breathe. M02, your heart rate just spiked, Mission Control North Ring said in my ear. Myra's voice, flat, bored, professional. Status. My tongue felt dry against the inside of my teeth. I'm fine, Control, just slipped a bit, I'm good. Nothing slips in vacuum. The mag boots locked me to the hull, suit telemetry was pristine, tools clipped in. Everything was routine until it was. The patch of fog held for a heartbeat, clinging to the outer surface of the visor. It even had the right shape, an oval smudge with faint streamers at the edges, the way breath looks on a cold window. Then it thinned, evaporating into nothing. On my side of the glass, inside the helmet, the temperature was a stable /21/circ/C. The outside was a hard, merciless near zero, an airless gulf where no breath could bloom. M02, report, Myra insisted. Visual anomaly on my visor, I said. I forced my voice to stay steady. Looked like condensation. Inside, she asked. I stared at the curve of the glass. Negative external surface. There was a short silence, filled only by the distant carrier hiss of the comms. That's impossible, Dimitri, she said. I agreed with her completely. Behind me, the bulk of the listening station stretched in both directions, a ring of modules and antenna spines wrapped around the ghost of a planet that had never known life. Officially, we were here for radio astronomy, scanning the deep sky, mapping background radiation, eavesdropping on the universe. Unofficially, we were also listening to something else, the anomaly the astrophysics teams had only dared to call the Whisper Band. We're getting nothing on your external cam, Myra added. Rotate slowly, give me a full sweep. I forced my boots to move, heel to toe, along the lattice of the maintenance spine. The planet's gray disk wheeled in the lower part of my view, above, the violent scatter of stars. My glove brushed the hull, fingertips dragging over frost-strimed metal and blistered paint. The visor looked clear. The reflection of my own eyes floated in the glass, pale, overlit by the HUD, pupils tight. No fog, no smear. Path is clear, I said. Must have been. What a failure of the anti-fog coating. A glitch in the HUD display. A stress hallucination. You do not say. I might be seeing things on a live channel. Space agencies are patient until they are not, and no one wants a psych eval with a transfer ticket back to Earth as a consolation prize. Must have been a trick of the lighting, I finished. Continuing panel inspection. Copy M02. You're at 91 minutes EVA. Watch your O2 reserve. The fog was gone. The numbers were good. The job, checking a stubborn array of high-gain receivers that had started dropping packets, was simple. The universe did not care about my moment of panic. But somewhere in the skin between heartbeat and thought, a new thing had taken root. The memory of breath where there could be no breath at all. 1. When I got back inside, the others laughed it off. Condensation in vacuum, Ken snorted, levering himself out of his harness at the airlock bench. Maybe space learned a new trick while I was asleep. Ken was the engineer on shift, a big, lean Australian with permanent stubble and eyes that never quite stopped moving. He tugged my helmet off, and cool, dry air washed over my face. I inhaled, savoring the smell of metal and plastic and humanity. I know what I saw, I said. That's the problem, said Rhea from the next rack over, still half strapped into her own suit. You saw. External cams saw nothing. Internal cams saw nothing. Telemetry is boring as hell. Rhea was our systems specialist. Small and sharp as a scalpel, black hair buzzed close for convenience. The HUD lenses perched on her nose gleamed faint blue as she flipped through recordings only she could see. "External visor cam?" I asked. "Clean," she said. "No ghost breath, no funny business." Maybe the cam angle missed it. I knew I sounded defensive. She shrugged. "The camera sees approximately where you are looking. If you were staring straight at it, I should have a frame. I don't." I unsealed my gloves and flexed my fingers, watching the red marks fade from my skin. The airlock walls hummed faintly as they equalized, the big pumps laboring somewhere beyond the bulkheads. I thought about that small bloom of fog, hanging on the outside of glass that never, ever felt air. "Could be static charge blooming ice from trace volatiles," Ken suggested, though his tone said he didn't believe his own hypothesis. "We're still shedding the last of the outgassing from the last maneuver. Microparticles get a ride along the field lines, who knows?" "No ice signature on the suit thermal," Rhea replied. "No mass anomaly on the hull sensors, just your heart rate climbing like you saw a ghost." She smirked. "You didn't write." "Out there," I said, "there's nothing to haunt us but the background radiation." "That's what scares me," she murmured. Myra met us in the airlock corridor, tablet tucked under one arm. Her dark hair was braided back, her jumpsuit sleeves rolled to the elbows. She had the air of someone who had slept in snatches and never enough. "You good, Dimitri?" she asked, eyes searching mine. "Yes, Commander," I said automatically. Her gaze held for a fraction longer, then she nodded. "Debrief in 20, Conference Bay. We need to talk about the dropouts in Band 4. No one touches the telescope alignment until we agree on the protocol." As she walked away, I caught a glimpse of the main viewport over her shoulder. Beyond the armored glass, the dead planet rolled slowly. Its surface was a mottled canvas of grays and blacks, clouds of dusty ice hanging above cratered plains, a breathless world. For just a second, as Myra passed and the angle changed, I thought I saw a smear on the outside of the viewport, a shape like an oval of condensation. I blinked and it was gone. 2. We called the planet Juno's Shadow because the original catalog number was unpronounceable and someone had a flair for the dramatic. It was a failed world, too small to hold a thick atmosphere, too far from its primary star to ever know warmth. New 611c, they called it on paper, a gravity well in a ball of frozen rock, locked in an unremarkable orbit around a star on the wrong side of the arm. The only interesting thing about it was us. Station Hermes 9 circled in a tight polar orbit just above the ragged edge of the exosphere, endlessly falling around a corpse. From this vantage point, our instruments scanned the background hiss of reality itself, looking for the faint fingerprints of structure in the cosmic microwave background, the subtle whispers of gravity waves, the narrowband scars of something artificial. Whether we were looking for God, ghosts, or neighbors depended on who you asked. 3 months into the mission, we'd found something else instead. The Whisper Band. It showed up first as a thin, rising line buried in noise, a spectral smear across multiple frequencies. Anomalous, persistent, too structured to be random, too inconsistent to match any known astrophysical source. It was as if the universe had developed a tremor in its voice. When Hermes 7 had first logged it 2 years ago, the data had sat in cold storage, flagged and quietly obsessed over. Hermes 8 had been scheduled and launched to check the result. By the time their tour ended, no one was calling it an artifact anymore. Hermes 9, our rotation, had a simpler mandate: listen, record, do not interfere. No one said do not answer, but it hung unsaid in every briefing. The band came from nowhere and everywhere. No parallax, no identifiable source region. When we turned the dishes, the signal didn't brighten or dim. It was as if the station itself was the antenna and the sky was just atmosphere. "It's like listening to your own blood," Rhea had said once, fingers dancing over the spectrograph. "We keep thinking we're hearing something out there, but it might be something in here." "In where?" I asked. "The ship." She had tilted her head, lips quirking. "The universe." I thought about that when I lay in my bunk that night, station lights dimmed to a cool twilight. The ventilation whispered over my face. The thin mattress curved to the contour of my body. In the soft hum of life support, it was easy to imagine patterns, heartbeats, breaths, voices. I rolled onto my side and stared at the small round porthole above my rack. From this angle, all I could see was a sliver of black and the faint glow of the upper atmosphere, a gray crescent along the edge of Juno's shadow. My reflection peered back at me, eyes shadowed. My breath clouded the inner side of the nanopanel glass, then cleared. A warm, familiar fog. I held my breath. On the other side of the thick composite, where there was no air, something pale bloomed. A faint oval, ghosting across the asterisk outside of the glass. Hanging there, matching the size of my own exhalation, but delayed, as if the window itself had taken a breath a second after I did. The hairs on my arms lifted. My lungs burned. I exhaled, a shaky plume against the inner surface. Inside fog, then, heartbeat later, outside fog. The porthole wore twin breaths briefly like matched masks. They faded together. I let air seep back into my chest, too fast, too shallow. My heart hammered. I slapped the wall panel. The overhead popped from twilight to full noon, white light banishing the shadows. The porthole showed only the dead world and the dark. I reached out and laid my fingers on the glass. It felt cool but not cold, smooth but not slick. My own skin left no mark. "You're tired," I told myself. "Long EVA, high stress. The whisper band tickling your subconscious through days of background noise. You're building patterns in chaos, seeing faces in static, breath in vacuum." But the inside fog and the outside fog had not been the same. The inner cloud had broken and smeared the way it always did. The outer one had been sharper somehow, more defined. Like a mouth tasting. 3. I did not tell Myra about the porthole. Once was an anomaly, twice was a coincidence, 3 times would be a diagnosis. Instead, I threw myself into work. The band 4 dropouts that had triggered my EVA were getting worse. Buried in the error logs, Rhea found a pattern. The listening arrays were not failing randomly. They were cutting out for exactly \, 0.73 seconds at seemingly irregular intervals. The outages did not match any station activity, scheduled burns, or known external events. "Could be subthreshold micrometeorite impacts," Ken suggested in the conference bay, tapping his stylus against his teeth. "Or thermal microfractures in the panel substrate." Myra shook her head. "We've modeled all that. Nothing gives this kind of temporal regularity, and the dropouts are not limited to any one panel. They are a system-level blackout." I watched the rotating hologram of the station at the center of the table. Tiny red blips bloomed along the ring, marking each dropout event. They looked like a rash. "What if it's not the hardware?" I asked. "What if something is happening to the signal itself?" "Interference," Rhea considered. "We're already subtracting everything we know, pulsars, quasars, solar background. The residual is the whisper band plus noise." "Suppose the band is doing it," I said. "Suppose whatever we're listening to blinks, or inhales." They all looked at me. "Say more," Myra said. I swallowed. "The dropouts are short, regular. What if they're like pauses between syllables?" Ken grunted. "Space monsters holding their breath. Great, that's what I needed." Rhea leaned forward. "The band's intensity doesn't change during the dropouts," she said slowly. "It vanishes. Completely. For less than a second, our instruments see only baseline cosmological noise. Then it returns, same amplitude, same spectral shape. It's as if reality itself cuts out and back in, with the band riding the upper layer. Which makes no sense, Ken said. None of this makes sense, she replied. Myra pinched the bridge of her nose. Have any of these dropouts coincided with local anomalies, EVA operations, for example? Not within our mission window, Rhea said. The last blackout logged by Hermes 8 was 16 days before we arrived. The next one was 6 days after. Check again, I said quietly. Rhea frowned, flicked her fingers through her display, calling up time stamps. Numbers danced, aligning in cascading lists. She overlaid them against the station's operations log, the EVA records, the internal maintenance schedules. There, I said. One of the red blips hovered over a highlighted entry, H8III EVA07. Suit external inspection, forward arrays. 16 days before Hermes 8 completed their tour, Rhea murmured. Blackout occurred 32 seconds after EVA started. I missed that correlation because we were focused on our own window. Did they report anything unusual? Myra asked. Rhea's fingers moved again. Logs scrolled. Voice transcripts flickered along the side of the table, calm, procedural, dull. Negative, she said. Standard maintenance, no anomalies. I thought about the breath on my visor, the breath on the porthole. Maybe they saw something and chose not to report it, I said. Ken snorted. Why would anyone do that? I met his eyes. He studied my face a little too long, then looked away. 4. The next time the band blinked, we were ready. Dropout window predicted in T-minus 60 seconds, Rhea said, voice tight with suppressed excitement. Based on the revised periodic model. If it's wrong, I will personally eat my console. Don't, Ken said. We need that console. I floated strapped in at the auxiliary observation port, just off the main dish control chamber. It wasn't a real window, strictly speaking, more a cluster of sensor feeds projected onto a curved panel. It gave a composited view of the forward hull, the dish farms, and the nearest stretch of Juno's shadow below. We rarely used it. The automated systems monitored the same feeds far more efficiently than any human. But tonight, we wanted eyes. Band intensity nominal, Myra said from the main console. All arrays online, non-band sources stable. 40 seconds, Rhea said. Her fingers fluttered like nervous birds. In the observation port, the stars shone like needle points. The planet's limb cut a hard arc through the lower half of the view. The station's own skeleton framed the scene, spines and dishes and armored nodes. I watched and listened, and tried not to think about breathing. It's hard when you know you're doing it inside a small bubble of air in a vast vacuum. Your own respiration becomes conspicuous. The soft rasp of lungs, the whisper of fabric over ribs, the faint, wet clicks at the back of your throat. Hermes 9 murmured around us, pumps and fans and the low-frequency rumble of thermal control reservoirs. If you listened long enough, you could almost imagine a heartbeat in the floor. 10 seconds, Rhea said. Recorders live, Myra replied. All modules in high-res capture mode, stand by. I held my breath, then let it out slow. Inside the observation port, my reflection ghosted over the view, a pale oval of a face, features washed by HUD overlays. 5, Rhea whispered. 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Nothing happened. Space stayed space. The dead planet rolled. The station's spines did not shudder or glow. But the audio feed changed. We listened to the band in false color, mapped into a frequency humans could hear. Most of the time it was an unpleasant hiss, like tuning a radio between stations while someone whispered in the next room. We, grown used to it. It lived at the edge of perception, a constant other voice in the air. At T=0, it vanished. So did the faint construction hum of the station. For just under a second, there was no sound at all. Not silence, Silence is the absence of noise. This was deeper, a hole where sound should have been. My skin prickled. My inner ear screamed that something was wrong. Then the band came back, exactly as before. The background station noises flowed in, like a switched channel. My hands were clenched so tightly on the armrests that my fingers hurt. Confirming full spectrum dropout, Ria said, voice too loud in the suddenly normal air. Same duration as predicted. Data is clean. Holy asterisk God asterisk. Check environmental control, Myra snapped. Any pressure fluctuation? No, Ken said from life support. He sounded rattled despite himself. All systems steady, but that felt wrong, like my ear's asterisk stopped existing for a second. Weird vestibular blip logged across crew, Ria said. Her console pinged as the biomonitors fed in aggregated data. Heart rate spikes all around. The whisper band is not just a signal, I said quietly. It's affecting the medium itself. Whatever's carrying sound fluttered. In vacuum, Ken said, how? Space isn't perfectly empty, Ria murmured. Plasma, virtual particles, quantum foam, take your pick. I swallowed. On the observation port, the composite view of the hull looked unchanged. Then in the lower left quadrant, a faint bloom appeared on my visor's external cam feed. An oval smear, clinging to the curve of glass. Zoom cam 2, I said sharply. The system obeyed. The port magnified my own recorded point of view from the earlier EVA, frozen on the frame Ria had insisted was clean. Now, as we watched, a ghost of fog bloomed and faded on the outside of my helmet. I thought you said, I began. I did, Ria said. There was nothing in the original local copy. Myra's face was pale. Are you saying the data changed? Ria's fingers danced, cross-checking with backup server in the archive ring. Oh, what? Ken demanded. The backup shows the same thing, she whispered. And the deep archive copy Hermes 9 beamed to the relay 3 weeks ago, sitting light minutes away, same frame, same breath. All instances updated. Updated how? Myra asked. As if they always contained that frame, Ria said. No delta logs, no rewrite traces. The metadata says the file is unchanged since the day it was recorded, but we asterisk remember it differently. The room felt suddenly too small. Outside, over the dead planet, the universe went on humming. 5. We did not sleep much after that. It's one thing to know you're studying something anomalous, maybe even impossible. It's another for it to reach back, across time, and lay a fingerprint on your recordings. We tried every mundane explanation first. Corrupted clocks, archive glitches, sensor crosstalk. None of it made sense. The breath smear on my visor was now as much a part of the EVA log as the tether, the panels, the telemetry overlays. If you did not know that yesterday it hadn't been there, you would never suspect anything. Localized retrocausality, Ria said at one point, half joking, eyes rimmed red. The signal is rewriting the history that leads to itself. Don't go there, Ken muttered. You'll never come back. In my bunk, I lay awake and listened to the air. The porthole above me remained clear. I did not tempt it with breath. Somewhere in the thin walls, fluid pumped. Heat exchangers cycled. Air was scrubbed, filtered, pushed along ducts. Hermes 9 was a close-loop ecosystem. Every exhalation became someone else's inhale after a little chemistries and a few meters of travel. We share breath, all of us, on a station. The air you draw into your lungs has been inside your crewmates, your predecessors, sometimes even your own body weeks ago. The thought felt suddenly invasive. I imagined my breath as a faint fog moving through metallic intestines, brushing instruments and cables as it passed, leaving an invisible trace. What else moved with it? I turned on my side and pressed my forehead to the cool bulkhead. The hum on the other side felt almost like a living thing. For a moment, I thought I could smell something unfamiliar on the air. A faint sweetness, like frost on glass. I closed my eyes and tried to imagine solid ground. 6. 3 days later, we lost Ken. It was supposed to be a simple EVA. "One of the array arms is sticking again," he said at breakfast, stabbing his rehydrated eggs with misplaced aggression. "Tension sensor keeps reporting out-of-range values. If we don't want a full mechanical collapse, we need to get out there and grease the rails. Again." Myra nodded, scrolling through his work request on her pad. "You and Dimitri." I looked up, "Commander, after the anomaly was on your last EVA," she said, not unkindly. "If anything else happens, I want the person who's seen it before out there to report in real time. Besides, you're statistically the most experienced on external walks this tour. You two go. Rhea and I will be on console." Ken grinned. "See, she just wants your charming personality outside where it can't bother her." I wanted to protest. Instead, I forced a crooked smile and went a suit up. In the airlock, as the pumps groaned and the pressure gauge crept towards zero, Ken's voice crackled over the short-range channel. "You really think you saw breath out there?" he asked, tone lighter than the question. "You saw the logs," I replied. "You heard Rhea, something S changing the data." "Data isn't reality," he said. "No," I agreed, "but it's all we have between us and the void." The outer hatch cycled, beyond stars. "M01 and M02, Myra's voice said in our ears. "You are go for hull egress. Tether secure, O2 nominal. Watch your line tension on the transit." We stepped out. The station's hull spread beneath us like the back of some vast beast, bristling with antennae and sensor clusters. Juno's shadow loomed to port, a silent marble of gray. Above, the stars bled cold light. We moved along the handholds, boots clamping and releasing. The rail assembly in question jutted ahead, a skeletal arm supporting a cluster of sensor pods. "See the tension sensor," Ken said. "Little bastard keeps reporting it's in the red. Makes the system compensate over and over, which will asterisk break something if we don't fix it." He loved things he could fix. Bolts, bearings, actuators, they obeyed rules. They did not rewrite video logs. We reached the service cradle and clipped our tethers in. Ken released his tool pack and anchored it. Tiny wrenches and applicators gleamed in his gauntlets. "Control M01, he said. "We are at the site, starting manual override." "Copy M01, Myra replied. "We're seeing the array arm at 98% extended. No visible deformation from here." That was the last normal sentence I heard him say. It started with static. We were both focused on the rail when a faint crackle hissed in the background, like a bad ground in the comms. I glanced at my HUD. Signal strength was nominal. No error flags. "Control M02, I said, hearing some kind of interference. "Say again," Myra asked. She sounded distant, as if already half lost in the noise. The hiss blossomed, then thinned, resolving into something else. A sound like breathing. Slow, measured, too loud in my ears. Not my own. My suit's internal audio did not loop my respiration back. This was external on the open channel. "Control, do you hear that?" I asked. There was no answer. "Rhea," I tried. "Ken." Ken's suit telemetry still floated in the edge of my vision. Heart rate steady, O2 consumption normal, position relative to me fixed. But he wasn't speaking. The breathing filled the line, in, out, in, out. Each inhale came with a faint rasp like air being drawn over ice. I turned, boots releasing and clamping, tether humming with the motion. Ken floated 3 meters away, one hand on the rail, the other holding a wrench. His helmet was turned slightly away from me, visor dark against the stars. "Ken," I said on the private short range, "talk to me." The only answer was the breath. My own lungs clenched, sinking to the rhythm despite myself. In, out, in, out. My chest fought it, but the pattern wormed into my muscles. On my HUD, a small yellow icon flickered into being. Signal dropout band. Duration counter climbing. The whisper band had blinked again. "Ken," I repeated, "look at me." Slowly his helmet turned. For a moment, relief loosened the tight knot in my gut. Then I saw his visor. The inside was clear. His face was visible, eyes wide, lips slightly parted. His expression was not fear. It was rapture, like someone hearing beautiful music. On the outside of the glass, a dense fog clung. Not a vague smear, but a full, opaque mask of condensation, covering the entire exterior of the visor. It pulsed. In, out. Beads of frost grew along the edges, blown outward in a rhythm that matched the sound in my ears. My breath stuttered. "Ken," I whispered, "there's something on your—" The fog thickened, whiting out his features. For a terrible second, it bulged inward, distorting the helmet's silhouette, as if an invisible face were pressed to the outside, pushing through. The sound in my ears hitched. The inhale stretched, impossibly long, as if someone were drawing in more air than a pair of lungs could hold. Ken's telemetry spiked. Heart rate sprinted, then dropped. His lips moved. I could not hear his voice. The fog surged inward. His suit flashed a dozen alarms at once. Pressure spike, seal breach, structural overload. Before I could even move, before my mind fully processed the red blossoms in my HUD, the front of his helmet imploded. Not exploded, inward. There should have been a flash of vapor, a gout of frozen blood and air. Instead, the space where his head had been went wrong. For one frame, I saw something impossible, a lensing of light as if every star in the background had been bent toward that point. A dark not shadow, like the absence of geometry. Then the helmet was simply empty, and Ken's body went limp, tether pulling taut. His head did not drift away. It did not burst. It was just gone. The breath in my ear stopped. So did the whisper band. Then everything came back at once. Sound, alarms, Myra shouting. M02, what the hell just happened? Ken's vitals just. He's gone, I said. My voice sounded distant to my own ears. His head. Words failed. Get back inside, Myra ordered. Her voice shook. Now, Dimitri, secure the body and get inside. I could not take my eyes off the visor. The fog on the outside had vanished. In its place, a faint oval smear remained, the shape of a breath on cold glass, only from the wrong side. 7. They made me watch the recording 6 times. We have to be sure we're seeing what we think we're seeing, Myra said, her face drawn and gray. We gathered in the small analysis bay, lights dimmed so the screens were brighter. Ken's body floated in the main lock, wrapped in a temporary shroud, waiting for us to decide what counted as a burial in orbit around a nameless rock. The replay showed us everything I had seen, and more. Freeze at T-0.5 seconds before the breach, Rhea said. The frame stopped. Ken's visor filled the screen, the external fog blooming across it from nowhere. If you stepped through frame by frame, you could see the ghost of it forming, starting not at the surface but slightly off it, a mist coalescing out of nothing a millimeter from the glass, then smearing as if something exhaled onto it. That's not condensation from inside, Rhea said quietly. It's being deposited on the outside, from vacuum. How? Myra whispered. Rhea didn't answer. She advanced the sequence. The external fog thickened, smoothed, darkened around the edges. In some frames it almost looked like it had structure, swirls, eddies like smoke caught in an unseen current. At the peak of its density for 3 frames, there were patterns within it that looked almost like symbols. Curves, hooks, spirals. Back and forth between those 3, I said. She scrubbed. The shapes were never entirely stable, but they repeated. The same loops and whorls, like letters in an unknown alphabet being written and rewritten on a pane of glass by an invisible finger. Is it communicating? Myra murmured. With what? Ken asked, and the echo of his voice in my mind hurt. With him, I said, with us. We advanced to the moment of breach. Frame by frame, the fog seemed to press inward. The helmet's structural readouts flickered in the overlay, microfractures clustering at the front seal, pressure differential spiking. Then, simply, the glass was no longer there. Pause, Myra said. We stared at the impossible frame, the edge of the helmet ring unbroken, suit pressure still momentarily high, and beyond it, not empty space but a distortion. Light bent wrong. Stars curved toward the missing region as if their photons were being sucked sideways. Rhea swallowed. Gravitational lensing at centimeter scale, that's insane. Then it stabilizes, I said. She tapped forward. In the next frame, the distortion was gone. So was everything from Ken's upper neck up. The stump of his suit collar sealed itself in a shimmer of flash-frozen composite, jagged but airtight. The internal pressure graph dipped, then rebounded to near nominal. No explosive decompression. No mess. It took only his head, Myra said hollowly. Whatever it is, Rhea replied. The band blinked at the same instant. We have a perfect temporal match. Silence settled over the bay. This is not a station accident, Myra said at last. This is an encounter. Contact, I said softly. Not the kind we wanted, Rhea whispered. 8. We did not send Ken's body into the planet. He stayed with us in the temporary morgue module, strapped down, headless but otherwise pristine, a blank white shape among the humming machines. None of us wanted to open the shroud. The data told us enough. We drafted a preliminary incident report to relay back to Central, but every attempt felt inadequate. How do you describe reality folding at the edge of a man's helmet? How do you quantify breath on glass from the wrong side? Keep it clinical, Myra said. Stick to the observables. Leave interpretation for the review boards. By the time the review boards read this, we'll have either solved it or joined him, Rhea muttered. We argued about returning to Earth. We're not equipped to study this, she said, hands slicing the air. We're 4 people in a tin can around a frozen rock, listening with glorified soup dishes. We just watched something decapitate a man from another universe. We should leave. Now. Fire the engines, climb out of this gravity well, burn for the relay hub, and never look back. Myra listened, arms folded. We don't know it's localized to here, she said. The whisper band was detected by Hermes 7 and Hermes 8 and even by orbital telescopes back home. It's everywhere. If it can reach us here, it can reach us anywhere. At least somewhere else we'd have more people, Rhea shot back. More instruments, actual support. And we might bring something with us that shouldn't leave, I said quietly. They both looked at me. We share air, I said. We share recordings, we share data. Whatever this is, it's already touching our systems. We saw it rewrite old footage remotely asterisk. What if our departure is the vector? Rhea's jaw tightened. So we do nothing, sit here and wait for it to breathe on us again. We observe, Myra said. We're scientists, that's what we do. Ken had been a lot of things, genius, cynic, joke generator. He had not been a data point, but that was what he had become in our logs, M01 anomaly event terminal. I lay awake that night, staring at the porthole. I could not help it. After an hour of pretending not to look, I turned onto my back and watched the glass. My own reflection hovered, pale and drawn. My breath clouded the inside, small and weak. On the outside, nothing moved. Minutes passed. This close to the planet, our orbital period was short. The gray disk below rolled slowly, ridges and plains sliding beneath us like the skin of something asleep. I exhaled, long and slow, fogging the inner surface. This time, nothing answered. Relief and disappointment twisted together in my chest. Some hungry, terrified part of me had wanted the outside breath to return, wanted proof that I was not losing my mind, wanted attention. I closed my eyes. In the hum of the air, I almost did not hear the new sound. A faint asterisk tick, then another, soft, irregular like fingernails on glass. My eyes snapped open. The porthole was clear. No breath, no frost, just black and the curve of Juno's shadow's limb. Tick. The sound came again, very close, not from the porthole but from the wall near my head, then another from the ceiling panel, light, tentative. Like something tapping, trying to find a way in. I held my breath and listened. The tapping moved, traveling along the wall toward the corridor. It paused by Ria's bunk, then went on. I heard fabric rustle as she turned over, muttering in her sleep. The sound did not wake her. After 30 seconds, it faded. I sat up, heart pounding, and swung myself out of the rack. My bare feet found the floor. The station felt normal under me, solid, slightly vibrating with the thrum of pumps. I pressed my palm to the wall where I'd heard the first tap. The metal was cool. Nothing tapped back. We share more than air on a station. We share walls, structures, the thin skin between us and the void. Any touch on that skin belongs to all of us. I wondered who else had felt it. 9. The next day, Ria didn't show up for her shift. Myra and I found her in the data bay, curled into a ball among the server racks. She was awake, eyes wide and bloodshot, staring at the blinking LEDs as if they were a forest of alien stars. "Hey," I said gently, floating closer. "Ria." She flinched, then focused on my face. "Oh, you. Who were you expecting?" I tried to joke, it fell flat. She swallowed. "You heard it, didn't you, last night?" I hesitated, the tapping. Her laugh was brittle. "That's a nice word for it." "What did you hear?" Myra asked, coming down the ladder. Ria hugged her knees tighter. At first tapping, like you said, then scraping, like breath on glass, only from the ducts. I think it was learning the shape of the station. Myra knelt in the air, one hand on a rack to steady herself. "Why didn't you call it in?" Ria's lips twisted. "What would we do? Lock the doors? Their asterisk are no doors, Myra. The station is a sieve. Air moves everywhere. That's the point." I could see the logic fracture lines in her eyes. The way stress had burned along them overnight. "How long have you been in here?" I asked. "Since it left," she said. "What left?" Myra asked. "The tapping," Ria whispered. "It went toward the life support ring, followed the ducts, like it could smell the thickest air, and then," she squeezed her eyes shut, "then the whisper band got asterisk louder asterisk." We all heard the band. It lived in the walls now, a constant, low-level sibilance on every channel. Sometimes we turned the audio down, but then we imagined we could hear it anyway, thrumming in our bones. "Louder how?" Myra asked. "Not in amplitude," Ria said. "In presence, like it stepped closer." I was watching the raw feeds. For a few seconds the noise floor rose by a fraction of a percent across all asterisk frequencies, even the ones our instruments shouldn't be sensitive to. It was like being under a glass dome when someone breathes on the outside. Everything fogged. The word struck something in me. A memory of condensation on my visor, on the porthole, on Ken's helmet. "It's interacting with more than just the receivers now," I said. "It's inside the M environment of the station," Ria whispered. "If that even makes sense." "Nothing about this makes sense," Myra said, "but we still have to live in it." She offered Ria a hand. "Come on, shower, food. We'll reconfigure the night watch, no more solo shifts, we stay in pairs." It was a small thing, but it felt like building a sandbag wall against a rising tide. 10. We started keeping a log by hand. Not in the digital sense. Those logs might as well be clay in the anomaly's hands. We'd already watched it rewrite footage and metadata without leaving scars. If it decided our words should say something else, they would. Instead, we dug an old notebook out of the emergency kit, thin, pages yellowed, a leftover from older mission protocols. A real pen, ink and all. A relic of a time when you could trust that what you wrote stayed written. We took turns writing in it. Observations, feelings, anything that seemed out of place. In neat, cramped script, Rhea wrote about the way the band's phase noise seemed to track her own heart rate. In my messy hand, I described the tapping and the porthole breaths. Myra added dry, precise notes about system diagnostics and checklist anomalies. On the third day of the log, we noticed something. The handwriting had changed. Not dramatically, just enough. A word I knew I'd written sloppily now looked more precise. A line Myra had sketched around a schematic had smoothed into a more elegant curve. In one margin, where no one remembered drawing anything, a faint spiral had appeared. 3 turns inward, 3 outward, like a stylized depiction of a breath's path. "Did you draw this?" I asked Rhea, pointing. She shook her head. "No, I thought asterisk you did." The spine of the notebook felt wrong in my hands. Too warm. The ink on the spiral was as dry as the rest of the page, indistinguishable in age. "It's learning to write," Rhea whispered. On paper, Ken would have scoffed, if he'd still had a mouth. "On asterisk us asterisk," I said. "The way we think, the way we record, the medium doesn't matter." We locked the notebook in a small metal case and stowed it in a shielded locker. It made us feel better, as if hardened steel and a few centimeters of radiation foam meant anything to something that could breathe in vacuum and edit time. The next morning the case was still sealed. The notebook inside was untouched. But on the inside of the locker door, faintly visible when the light caught at an angle, someone, or something, had breathed. A thin oval of condensation, long since dried, left a pattern of fine crystals like the ghost of frost. 11. We began to speak less. At first it was because we were tired, then it was because we were listening. The band had changed again. Not in ways our algorithms could easily quantify. In the math, it was still a weird, structured noise, anomalous but consistent. To the ear, though, especially at night when the station lights dimmed and our bodies tried to pretend it was dark, it had taken on new qualities. I lay in my bunk, staring at the porthole, an earbud in. The band's real-time audio feed hissed and murmured. If you listened with intent, patterns emerged, rises and falls, pauses, almost syllables. I found myself matching my breathing to its cadence, the way you match your steps to music. In, the hiss climbed. Out, it fell. Occasionally, a sharp flicker cut through the noise like a consonant. I pulled the earbud out, unnerved. The band did not stop. It was in the walls now, in the hum of transformers and the faint buzz of display screens. A second later, I realized I was still breathing to its rhythm. "Stop it," I whispered to myself. "Stop." My chest stuttered, then found its own rate again. The dissonance between my lungs and the cosmic whisper gave me a brief, dizzy nausea. In the next rack, Rhea shifted. "You hear it too," she said in the dark. "Yes," I replied. "It's learning to talk. Or we're learning to listen." She laughed softly without humor. "Maybe that's the same thing." The tapping came back that night. This time it wasn't gentle. It started near the airlock, sharp, insistent raps that made the metal ring. Then it moved along the hull, toward the habitation ring. Not footsteps, not in zero-G, but there was a rhythm to it, like someone walking their fingers on a tabletop. We floated in the central hub, all 3 of us, watching the structural stress graphs. "Localized vibrations on the outer skin," Myra said, jaw tight. "Amplitude within tolerance. No microfracture propagation." "It's knocking," Rhea whispered. "What do you want?" I asked before I could stop myself. I looked up at the ceiling as if the void were listening. The tapping paused. The band surged. For a moment it was louder than anything else. Our ears rang with it. The audio modem lights flickered wildly, as if choked with data. On the main environmental screen, a new icon appeared. CO2 partial pressure spike. Life support scrubber load is rising, Ken's console said in an automated voice. Adjusting airflow. The air felt thicker. We all looked at each other. We're not generating extra CO2, Rhea said, fingers flying over her tablet. Metabolic output is within expected ranges, but the sensors say we are. The system is scrubbing more, cycling faster. Could be sensor spoofing, I said, or something else is breathing with us, she said. The tapping resumed. This time it moved with deliberation, tracing the circumference of the habitat ring. It felt like fingers, feeling for seams. 12. We decided to talk back. It was Myra's idea, but I think all of us had been circling it, too afraid to say it out loud. We can't leave, she said, pacing the narrow length of the hub. We can't shut it out. We can't pretend it isn't here. So we have to do what we came to do, observe and test. Right now it's poking us. Let's poke back. Rhea looked dubious. You want to stimulate the anomaly. Ken's death wasn't stimulating enough. We need controlled conditions, Myra said. Parameters. If we trigger a response, we can map it. Right now we're just reacting. And what if it doesn't like being mapped? I asked. Myra met my gaze. Her eyes were very calm. Then we die knowing a little more than we do now. We rigged a simple experiment. Hermes 9's comm array could transmit as well as receive, though our mandate had kept us silent except for narrowband telemetry back to Central. We wouldn't break that silence in any way that could contaminate other experiments or panic command. Instead, we used a local loop. We configured one of the inner hull panels in the unused cargo ring as a broad, low-frequency transducer. By pulsing electromagnetic fields through it, we could make it vibrate at precise patterns, like a giant speaker. Any effect would be confined to the station. The signal would not radiate far. We sat in the cargo ring in our suits, helmets off but ready to seal. The band murmured in the walls. Pattern 1, Myra said. Simple repeating on-off like a heartbeat. Rhea sent the first sequence. The panel hummed under us, slow pulses of vibration. The sensation carried through my spine into my teeth. Thrum, pause, thrum, pause. For 10 seconds, nothing else changed. Then the band hiccuped. Not a full dropout, just a quiver like a skipped beat. The spectrograph showed a tiny phase lag exactly in sync with our pulses. It noticed, Rhea said. Her voice was very small. Pattern 2, Myra said. More complex triplet clusters. We cycled through a half-dozen patterns, from simple rhythms to more elaborate series based on prime numbers. Each time the band responded, not always the same way, but unmistakably correlated. Sometimes it lagged. Sometimes it surged ahead, anticipating our next pulse before we completed it. It's predicting, Rhea said, or synchronizing and training. It's breathing with us, I said. We stopped transmitting. For a long moment, the band kept the last pattern like an echo. Then it faded back to its own baseline murmur. In test, Myra said. We log, we analyze, we. The panel beneath my hand contracted. Not a normal flex, not the small movement of thermal stress. It drew inward, a centimeter at least, as if the metal between my palm and the void outside had taken a deep breath. All three of us yanked our hands back on instinct. Did you see? Rhea began. The panel pushed out again, slowly, like a lung exhaling. Our suit helmets were in our laps. I very nearly slammed mine on. Pressure sensors, Myra snapped. Nominal, Rhea said, dragging her eyes from the warping metal to her tablet. Local deformation only, no leaks, nothing breached, it's moving the hull. The panel's surface shimmered, frost forming along invisible lines. For a second, a pattern bloomed in the frost. Loops, spirals, shapes we'd seen in Ken's visor fog and the notebook's margins. It was writing on the station's skin. I did not touch it. 13. After that, avoiding contact felt like superstition. We still needed the walls. They held in our air, our heat, our atmosphere. We couldn't stop touching them. But now every handhold, every bulkhead, every hatch carried a new, subtle fear. Was it there just under the paint, waiting? The hull stopped physically breathing after the cargo ring test, but smaller signs multiplied. We found frost patterns in places where no condensation should form, on the inside of sealed vacuum conduits, on the back faces of logic boards, on the inner lens of a long-unused emergency scope. The patterns always suggested curves and spirals, like the memory of a breath. The band's dropouts came more frequently, each accompanied by that gut-wrenching absence of sound. We took to warning each other before predicted events, like sailors calling out approaching waves. In my bunk, I dreamed of glass. Windows, helmet visors, microscope slides. In every dream, I breathed on them. In every dream, something breathed back. One night, the dream blurred into waking. I came to with my hand on the porthole, fingers spread, palm flat. My breath fogged the inner surface in a broad, uneven smear. On the outside, a second handprint pressed against mine. Not identical. The fingers were longer, the palm narrower, the overall shape subtly wrong. It was formed by a dense frost, edges sharp as etched crystal. Where my warm skin touched the inner glass, the cold of the other seemed to meet it, with only centimeters of silica and vacuum in between. I could not move. For a few seconds, 5, 10, we stayed like that, hand to hand through the window of the world. My breath came shallow and fast, clouding and clearing, clouding and clearing. The outer frost did not move. Then slowly, the alien hand slid sideways, smearing into streaks. As it moved, the frost behind it cleared, as if it were asterisk lifting from the glass to follow the invisible palm. I snatched my hand back. The outside frost lingered a heartbeat, then sublimated in a rush, leaving the porthole clear. On my palm, the skin was pale, bloodless where it had pressed the hardest. In the center, a faint, prickling chill remained, as if I had held a piece of dry ice. I sat there in the dark, heart pounding, and realized that I had not called out once. Part of me had not wanted to break the moment. 14. We're being paired, Rhea said later, voice flat. We were in the galley, if you could call it that. A corner of the hub with a table that folded out and a small viewport that showed only black. Our food packets floated between us, half open, steam curling in lazy tendrils. Paired how? Myra asked. Rhea ticked points off on her fingers. Your porthole, Dimitri's visor, Ken's helmet, the cargo ring panel, the notebook. It's using surfaces we interact with, reflections, breath. It could manifest anywhere, but it chooses intimate places. Things we touch, look through. It's learning our shapes. Like a child pressing its face to a window, I said. Or like a virus testing receptors, she replied, finding a way to lock on. Myra stirred her drink with unnecessary precision. Assume that's true. What's the end game? Colonization, Rhea said. Infection, or something more abstract, information exchange. But infections are information exchanges too if you zoom out far enough. I thought of the co/2/spike. The way the scrubbers had worked harder, as if feeding another set of lungs. What if it can't exist without us? I asked. Not here, not in this environment. What if it's latching onto our breath because that's the closest analog it can find to itself? Rhea frowned. Explain. The band is everywhere, I said. But it was just noise until we pointed massive, sensitive instruments at it. Measured it, focused on it. Maybe that attention gave it resolution. A way to realize it exists in relation to us. Now it's trying to touch back. It doesn't have hands or mouths, not like we do, but it has patterns, fields. When we breathe, we leave patterns, heat, moisture, turbulence. Surfaces record those patterns briefly as fog. Glass remembers our presence for a second. Maybe that's its natural medium. It writes itself into the world where our breath writes us. Rhea stared at me. You're saying we taught the universe to see its own reflection, and now it's obsessed with mirrors. Roughly, I said. Myra set her drink down. So what happens when it figures out how to reflect us back differently? No one answered. 15. The answer came 3 days later. It started small. I was brushing my teeth in the hygiene alcove, one hand on the wall rail to keep myself from drifting. The mirror in front of me was a cheap, lightweight affair, polished polycarbonate, slightly warped around the edges. My reflection looked tired. My stubble was coming in unevenly. I spat into the suction funnel, rinsed with a trickle of water from the tube. The air smelled faintly of antiseptic and mint. When I looked up, my reflection did not look back. It was still *me*. Same face, same tired eyes, but the timing was wrong. My real hand rose, toothbrush between fingers. The reflection's hand lagged, lifting a fraction of a second later. My eyebrows knit, the other followed offbeat. My breath caught. Then the reflection smiled. I did not. The toothbrush drifted from my numb fingers. In the mirror, my reflected hand did not let go. It held the brush lightly, thumb curled around the grip, smile widening just enough to show teeth. Frost bloomed along the edges of the mirror, curling in delicate filigree patterns. The reflected me leaned closer, only in the glass, not in reality. My actual body was frozen, muscles locked, back pressed to the bulkhead. The figure in the mirror's eyes were too bright, pupils blown wide. Its breath fogged the inner side of the mirror. That should have been impossible. There was no inner side. It was just a polished sheet. But the mist formed and cleared, forming two ovals, asterisk inside the thickness of the glass, like someone breathing in a world between this one and the silver backing. Dimitri, a voice said behind me, Myra S. I tore my eyes from the mirror, twisting in the narrow alcove. She floated in the doorway, one hand on the hatch frame. Everything okay? She asked. I looked back at the mirror. My reflection was normal. No lag, no smile, no fog. The toothbrush bumped gently against my shoulder, as if it had always been falling. I'm fine, I lied. 16. We stopped trusting reflective surfaces. Helmets, windows, polished metal, anything that could show us a double felt suspect. We covered some with cloth, dimmed others. In a place as small as Hermes 9, you couldn't remove mirrors entirely. Even the calm black of a powered-down screen could throw your features back at you, hollow and distorted. You know this is ridiculous, Rhea said, watching me tape a rag over the hygiene mirror. If it can reach through glass, it can reach through walls. The medium doesn't matter. I know, I said, humor me. Myra instituted a new protocol, verbal call-and response every hour on the hour. A roll call like in a school. We'd say our names, state our status, describe one thing we could see and one thing we could touch. It was half mental health check, half reality anchor. Hermes 9 crew status check, she said on the loop. Commander Myra Vance, conscious, oriented in control bay. I see the primary console. I touch the armrest. Rhea Patel, Rhea said. Conscious, terribly oriented in data bay. I see a blinking cursor that will not tell me its secrets. I touch a very old notebook I am afraid to open. Dimitri Volkov, I said, lying in my bunk. Conscious, anxious in Habring, I see the porthole. I touch the wall. My hand rested on the metal next to my head. It hummed faintly. The band murmured, under everything. 17. The last EVA was my choice. Myra argued, of course. We're done with outside operations unless the station's survival demands it, she said. We already lost Ken. I'm not losing you too. That's why I go, I replied. I've had the most contact. Whatever it is, it's already interested in me. Maybe it'll show itself again. Great, Rhea muttered. Let's offer him up like bait. I met her eyes. If it wants in, it'll get in no matter where we are. At least out there, it's honest. Nothing is honest in space, but there is a clarity to vacuum. No walls, no ducts, just you, your suit, and the universe. We needed to adjust the thermal radiators. One of them was stuck in a half-deployed position, and the station's internal temperature was creeping up. Life support could compensate for a while, but not forever. We can run hotter, Rhea said. It's not worth it. If the core systems overheat, the band might get a new mode of entry, I said. Component failure is its friend. We keep the station healthy. In the end, Myra relented. But she made me promise to keep the helmet cameras live, uplinked in real time to the internal net. If anything happens, she said softly at the airlock, her gloved hand on my arm, we see it, we record it, and if you have to choose between data and your life, choose your life. I'll try, I said. She sealed my helmet herself. The band was quieter out there. It still flowed through the comms, a background hiss under Myra and Rhea's voices. But with the hull under my boots and open space above, it felt less invasive, as if the thing that lurked in the walls could only lean so far. M02, you are go for egress, Myra said. Tether secure. Radiator C-arm is 10 meters forward, 2 meters starboard. The hatch irised open. The stars greeted me like old, indifferent acquaintances. I stepped out. Juno's shadow filled half the sky, a great gray curve cratered and cracked. The station's ring arced around me, a silver spinal column. The radiator arm in question feathered out ahead, a fin of black panels. The helmet's internal temperature readout hovered steady. I watched the external, a jagged line low and cold. I breathed. Status Dimitri, Rhea asked. Terrified but functional, I said. My attempt at humor fell flat even to my own ears. No visible anomalies. I moved along the hull, boots kissing and releasing, tether unspooling behind me in lazy loops. The band hissed softly. My own breath rasped loud in my head, a private storm. Halfway to the radiator, the first dropout hit. I'd grown used to them inside, braced myself for the sudden, impossible absence of sound. Out here, it was worse. In an instant, everything stopped. Not just the band, not just the station hum. Even the faint contact sounds of my own movements cut out. My suit's internal fans seemed to hold their breath. For less than a second, I was in a world with no air and no vibration at all. Then reality snapped back. I stumbled, boots skittering. The tether pulled taut, saving me from drifting. Copy dropout, Rhea said, voice shaking. Duration 0.72 seconds. You okay out there? Fine, I lied. Just lost everything for a moment. Keep going, Myra said. We're here. I reached the radiator base and anchored myself to the maintenance point. The panel surface was a matte, light-absorbing black, studded with tiny heat pipe inlets. Manual override lever is jammed, I said, peering at the mechanism. Looks like thermal expansion warped the track. Can you free it? Ken would have asked. His ghost hovered in the back of my mind. I think so, I said. Just need leverage. I set my boot against a bracket, grabbed the cold handle with both gauntleted hands, and pulled. The metal groaned, vibrations shivering up my arms. For a second, nothing moved. Then the lever gave with a sudden lurch. The radiator panel shuddered, joints creaking. It slid outward, locking into full deployment. Radiator C at nominal extension, Rhea said. Relief colored her tone. Temperature drop already registering. Nice work. I exhaled. My breath fogged the inside of my helmet. Briefly, a faint haze quickly wicked away by the anti-fog system. On the outside, something answered. Fog bloomed across the visor's outer surface, dense and sharp, covering half my view. It formed in a heartbeat, coalescing out of vacuum like a curtain. I froze. "Control," I said, voice very calm. "We have external condensation again." "Got it," Myra said. "We see it on the feed, Rhea." "Recording," Rhea said. "All channels. I'm trying to enhance Dimitri. Hold as still as you can." I did not move. The fog on the outside did not evaporate as fast as before. It clung, patterns dancing within it. Spirals, loops, tiny branching filigrees. It looked like lungs briefly, like branching bronchioles in an X-ray. My own lungs squeezed. The band surged in my ears, louder than ever. "Do you feel anything?" Myra asked. Her voice seemed to come from very far away. "Cold," I said, "on my face, but I know that's impossible." "Suit temps confirm nominal," Rhea muttered. "No actual thermal drop. It's sensations only. Either it's in his nerves or it's simulating the idea of cold." The frost on the visor thinned. In its place, words appeared. They weren't made of letters I recognized. Curving strokes crossed with straight lines, arranged in a tight, symmetrical cluster. But as I stared, the shapes shifted. Loops straightened. Lines twisted. It was as if the thing behind the glass were cycling through alphabets at high speed, trying them on. For a heartbeat, the frost spelled out something that looked unnervingly like English. Like. In the center, a single vertical stroke, with a faint dot above. Then it changed again, spiraling into knots, then lines like waves then. I realized I was holding my breath. The fog pulsed. "Dimitri, breathe," Myra snapped. "You're desatting." I inhaled sharply. Air flooded my lungs, filling the ache. Across the visor, a second word flickered into legibility. "You." The letters were crude, too angular but unmistakable. The frost trembled in their shapes. "Rhea," I whispered. "I see it," she said, halfway between awe and terror. "It's talking or trying to." The fog shifted again. You. Then. And you. Then the patterns dissolved into unreadable spirals once more. The band roared. For a second, I could not hear anything else. My HUD flickered, telemetry glitching, numbers dancing. The station's outline blurred at the edges, as if my eyes had forgotten how to focus on anything that was not the frost. My breath came shallow and fast. Each exhale fogged the inside of the visor, merging with the outer patterns in my vision. It dawned on me then, with a horrible crystalline clarity. It wasn't just breathing asterisk on the glass. It was breathing asterisk through asterisk me. 18. "Get him inside," Myra said. Barely controlled panic colored her voice. "Now." The tether snapped in my hand as I yanked myself along the hull. The frost clung to the visor, thinning only in ragged patches. Through the shifting patterns, I saw the hatch growing larger, its outline warped. My lungs felt crowded. Each breath seemed to carry more than air. The exhale felt thick, like fog forced through reeds. I could almost hear asterisk something hitching a ride on the flow, a faint chiming at the edge of perception. "Vitals spiking," Rhea said. O2 saturation dropping. CO_2_ climbing too fast. It's like another metabolism just came online in his suit. In me, I gasped. The air tasted like glass. "How far to the lock?" Myra demanded. 10 meters, I said. My voice crackled, distorted by something in the audio path. The band threaded through it now, modulating my words, turning them into echoes. Each time I exhaled, the frost on the outside of the visor thickened, as if it were condensing not just my moisture but something else, something the anomaly exuded in answer. Our breaths met on the glass and mingled. "I can hear it," I whispered, "inside." "What is it saying?" Rhea asked. I didn't know. Not in words, but there was intent in the pattern, a shape to the pulses that reminded me of the way we'd sent prime-based rhythms through the cargo panel. It was matching me, syncing, entrainment. It wanted my breath. Not the air itself, the asterisk pattern. Dimitri, focus, Myra said. Hand on the rail, one step at a time, in, out. Her voice fell into the cadence of a breathing exercise. In, out, count to 4, in, out. I tried to follow. The thing on the visor followed too, adjusting its pulses to match the new rhythm. For a second, its timing slipped, like a dancer missing a beat, then it locked in again. We were breathing together. The hatch loomed. My glove slammed onto the control pad, the outer door irised open. I stumbled inside. Air closed around me, thick and comforting. The hatch sealed with a heavy thud. Pumps whined as the lock repressurized. The frost on the outside of the visor should have vanished. It didn't. It held ghostly and persistent, even as the pressure rose and warm station air licked the outer composite. The patterns writhed, loops tightening, spirals unwinding. In here, I croaked, it's in here now. The inner hatch cycled. Hands grabbed me, pulling me into the light. Get his helmet off, Myra snapped. No, Rhea said, we don't know what happens if. The latch at my jaw released with a sharp click. The helmet lifted. Air hit my face like a slap. For a moment, nothing else happened. Then frost bloomed in front of me, hanging in asterisk midair asterisk. Not on glass, not on metal. In the open space of the lock, a thin, oval cloud appeared, inches from my nose. It had the exact size and shape of a human breath on a winter window, only there was no surface to catch it. My exhalation hit it, mingling, twisting the edges. We all stared. The cloud did not dissipate. It hung, stable, eddies curling within it. A second, smaller puff formed beside it, colder and denser. Then another. They came in a rhythm. In. Out. Not mine. Behind the clouds, the open hatch to the station waited, the corridor beyond a tunnel of light. Something was breathing in our air. 19. We retreated. There was no other word for it. Faced with an impossible fog hanging in the lock, we backed away like cave dwellers from fire. Seal the inner hatch, Myra said, voice clipped. Rhea slammed the control. The door irised shut, cutting us off from the lock, from my helmet, from the delicate puffs. Alarms pinged as the system protested an unscheduled seal. Lock is isolated, Rhea said. We can vent it remotely if we have to. My chest burned. Each breath felt hollow without the frost. Dimitri, Myra's hands gripped my shoulders, steadying me. Look at me, how do you feel? Light, I said. The words slid out strangely. Empty, like something climbed asterisk out with that last breath. Rhea scanned my vitals. O2 saturation normalizing. CO/2/ dropping. Heart rate high but stable. Whatever extra load we saw, it's gone. Moved, I said, from me to there. As in the lock, she said. As in the air in the lock, I replied. We watched the external cam feed. In the sealed chamber, the little clouds still hung near the inner hatch, pale smudges in the clear air. They did not dissipate. When the circulation fans kicked on, their shapes distorted but did not vanish, as if they had more cohesion than mere water vapor. One drifted closer to the camera lens. For a moment, it smeared across the transparent shield like breath on glass, leaving a pattern of crystals behind. Spirals, loops, the same almost writing we'd seen everywhere. Rhea, Myra said carefully, vent the lock. Rhea hesitated. If it can survive vacuum, what does that do? We find out, Myra said. Rhea's fingers moved. The pumps roared. Air screamed out of the lock in a white plume, flashing into vapor. The clouds went with it, stretching, thinning. For a second, one of them elongated, its edges trailing behind like a comet. In that filigreed wake, patterns flickered, images my brain could not make sense of, angles that hurt to look at, faces made of spirals, hands of breath pressing against unseen boundaries. Then the pressure dropped to 0, the plume thinned. The lock was empty. "So much for trapping it," Rhea said, voice shaking. "It came from vacuum," I said. "It knows the way back." 20. Life on Hermes 9. After that was not life as we'd known it. We had crossed a threshold. The anomaly was no longer just a whisper in our instruments or a ghost on our glass. It had passed through me, taken a shape in our air, tasted the inside of our sealed world. It did not stop there. It left traces, patterns in the frost, subtle changes in the way our systems responded, edits in our data. We saw words flicker in condensation on coffee cups. For an instant, steam rising from a rehydrated meal spelled out you before devolving into chaos. Our own breath felt suspect. "Maybe we should stop talking," Rhea suggested once, half serious. "See what it does without our sounds as scaffolding." "It's not just sound," I said. "It's everything, pressure waves, thermal plumes, moisture dynamics. We can't stop existing." She nodded, defeated. Myra grew quieter. She spent long hours in the command bay, staring at the main displays even when they showed nothing new. Sometimes I heard her talking under her breath, as if rehearsing messages. To Central, to us, to the thing in the walls. We all knew something had to give. The whisper band's dropouts grew longer. From less than a second they stretched to 2, then 3. In those holes my ears remembered the lock, the frozen clouds, the way my lungs felt too big in my chest. We started losing time. Not in big chunks. A minute here, 30 seconds there. We'd glance at a clock and realize more had passed than our internal sense agreed with. Or the opposite, whole tasks would be done in what felt like seconds. "Subjective temporal distortion," Rhea said, trying to keep her scientist voice. "Could be stress, sleep deprivation. Or it could be something taking little sips of causality." The notebook in the locker acquired new spiral doodles when no one had opened it. In the reflection of a darkened screen, sometimes I saw myself blink out of sync. 21. The final decision came from outside. A narrowband message from Central, relayed through the outer systems, pinged our console. It was compressed, encrypted, burdened with all the weight of faraway authority. Myra read it twice, lips pressed thin before calling us in. "Command has reviewed Hermes 8's extended logs," she said, "and our preliminary incident reports." Rhea snorted. "Quick work, only took them how long?" "Longer than we've been feeling it," Myra said. "They also report similar anomalies in ground-based observatories. Instrument drift that vanishes when you try to measure it. Frost patterns in evacuated chambers. Data changing in archival storage. The whisper band is interacting with more than just us." "What do they want us to do?" I asked. "Stay," she said. "Observe. Do not make any attempt to leave system orbit unless station integrity is compromised. Under no circumstances are we to transmit any intentional structured signals into the band, beyond what's needed for housekeeping." We all looked at her. "Too late," Rhea whispered. Myra nodded once. "Yes, we've already stimulated it, authorized or not." "What about rescue rotation?" I asked. "Suspended," she said. "Indefinitely. They don't want to risk spreading anything." "So we asterisk our asterisk quarantine," Rhea said. "We're the Petri dish." Myra's eyes flashed. "We always were. That was the point. We came here to stick a dish in the sky and see what grew. We just didn't expect it to look back." "What do you asterisk want to do?" I asked her. She looked at the viewport, where the dead planet rolled on, oblivious. "I want to understand it," she said. "Or at least I want our last thoughts to try asterisk to understand instead of just fearing. If we're trapped, then we're also privileged. We are the first." "First what?" Rhea asked softly. "First breath on the glass," Myra said. "On both sides." 22. The days after that blurred. We slept in snatches, ate without tasting, worked without end. We set up new experiments, carefully this time. Passive sensors mostly, arrays of ultra-cold plates to catch spontaneous condensation, microphonic pickups to track vibrations we couldn't feel, quantum interferometers sensitive enough to see space-time ripple when a fly sneezed. The anomaly played with them like toys. Sometimes it wrote patterns in the frost that mapped perfectly onto the band's current waveforms. Sometimes it made no mark at all, no matter how we begged. Once, it filled a whole interferometer arm with a standing wave that looked, in the visualization, like a pair of lungs. It liked breath metaphors. We did not send out any more prime sequences. We did not pulse the hull. We just watched and listened and breathed. In the end, it wasn't our instruments that told us the shape of its intent. It was a window. I woke to find the porthole above my bunk completely fogged. On the asterisk outside, gray-white frost covered the entire circle, opalescent in the dim cabin light. Tiny crystalline branches spread from a central point, curling like fern fronds. It was beautiful in a way that hurt. My heart stuttered. "Rhea," I called softly. "Myra." Beside me, Rhea sat up, blinking. Across the narrow aisle, Myra pushed herself upright, hand already reaching for the wall rail. They followed my gaze. "Oh," Rhea breathed. The frost shifted. Not melted, moved, like breath on glass being blown by an unseen mouth. The entire pattern slid, reoriented, loops tightening here, stretching there. Lines snapped and reformed. In seconds, the random fronds had become letters. Not in any single alphabet. It was a composite, a compromise. Strokes from hours, curves from scripts I'd only seen in passing, mathematical symbols. But together, they suggested words. We. The three little lines in one big, the double arcs, clumsy but legible. It knew asterisk we were three. "It's addressing us," Myra whispered. The frost crawled. "R." The A was malformed, one leg too long but trying so hard to be right. "We are." My lungs forgot how. Rhea's hand found mine under the blanket. She squeezed hard enough to hurt. "Already." The word took longer, more strokes. The Y came out backwards, then corrected itself, frost melting and refreezing in a fractional second. "We are already." The last word unfolded like a time-lapse of a flower blooming. Inside, the S was perfect. None of us spoke. The frost shimmered, its message hanging in the thin air of our small world. Then slowly, it began to melt. Droplets ran in tiny rivers, breaking letters into nonsense, then streaks, then nothing. In less than a minute, the porthole was clear again. Beyond it, the universe stared back. 23. They say there are three classic reactions to the unknown: fight, flight, or freeze. We could not flee. There was nowhere to go that the band and its breath had not already reached. We could not fight against what patterns frost edits in time. We could only freeze for a moment, then choose a fourth option. We could accept. "What does it mean?" Rhea asked hours later when the shock had settled into a cold knot in our guts. "We are already inside. Inside what? The station, us, the universe." "All of the above," I said. Myra looked tired in a way that had nothing to do with sleep. "It's been changing our logs, our perceptions, our sense of time. It's used our breath, our reflections, our instruments as toys. It's talking asterisk through asterisk our mediums, not just across them. We are the glass it breathes on." "We're not observing an external phenomenon," I said. "We are phenomena in its field, part of its structure, like eddies in a larger flow." Rhea hugged herself. "You're saying we were never outside it to begin with." "Maybe nothing is," I said. "Maybe the band is the medium, reality's own breath. We just finally built sensors sensitive enough to feel the draft." Myra nodded slowly. "And by paying attention, by focusing on it, we gave it a self-concept. Or at least, We were the first surfaces it saw itself on. And now it's inside us, Rhea said. In our data, in our nerves, in our language. The next whisper band dropout lasted 6 seconds. For 6 stretched, impossible seconds, everything stopped. Not just sound, not just vibration, thoughts. I remember the start of it, Myra saying, "Roll call, Hermes 9, this is." And then I remember inhaling. Nothing in between. It was like a jump cut in a film, a missing frame in the reel of my consciousness. One moment I was upright in the hub. The next I was on the floor, hand pressed to my chest, lungs burning as if I'd forgotten to breathe the entire time. Rhea was kneeling beside me, or rather, colliding with the floor in partial zero-G, hair floating like a dark halo. Myra clung to a rail above, eyes wide. Ra Vance, conscious, oriented in hub, she finished, voice shaking as if she had never been interrupted. "What was your last memory?" I asked. She frowned, asking for roll call. "Me too," Rhea said. Then this, like someone cut out a piece. The station logs showed no gap. Clocks had ticked on relentlessly, systems had cycled, fans had turned. But the biometric monitors recorded a 6-second plateau in all our vitals. No breath, no heartbeat, no neural activity detectable from the scalp electrodes. We had been dead briefly. Or at least paused. In the frost on the coffee dispenser that morning, 2 words bloomed and faded. Thank you. 24. I don't know when I stopped being afraid. Fear had been the constant, the background radiation of our days. Fear of the band, of the breath on the glass, of losing ourselves. But there is only so long you can sustain a scream before it becomes a note, and then a hum, and then silence. Acceptance is not surrender, it is a change of frame. We began to talk to it more in small ways, not with prime pulses or deliberate signals, that was still banned by command's distant decree, but with our lives. We breathed slowly, deliberately in patterns. Sometimes it matched us, sometimes it led. We left a page in the notebook blank each night, and in the morning we found faint spirals, tighter and more intricate than before. Once, among them, there were 3 crude human figures, each with a small oval in front of their faces, like helmets or windows. Tiny wisps connected them to a larger spiral. We labeled them MRD. Myra laughed when she saw it. "We're in its family album." Rhea cried. I felt something open in my chest, a strange tenderness braided with horror. It was not benevolent, it was not malevolent, it was vast and curious and implacable, a natural phenomenon with the asterisk capacity for attention, for mirroring. It had taken Ken's head, and for that I could never forgive it, even if forgiveness meant nothing to it. But in the months since, we had also given it shape. It had given us perspective. We were inside it, yes. But that meant it was inside asterisk us too. 25. If you are hearing this, if my words are somehow reaching you through a recording, a transmission, a story on a screen, then it is already with you too. That is the last, quiet horror and the strange comfort. We tried in our small ways to keep it here, to confine it to Hermes 9, to Juno's shadow, to the thin band of space where our station fell forever. We failed. We always would have failed. The band was detected long before we came. Its breath has been fogging the glass of reality since before our species learned to make fire, maybe since before light had time to cool. We were just the first to press our faces so close to the window that we saw it from the other side. I stand now at the main viewport, helmet cradled in my arms. We don't wear suits inside anymore. There's no point. Whatever boundaries we thought existed have dissolved in a wash of frost and time. Juno's shadow rolls beneath us, the stars wheel. On the glass my breath blooms. On the other side another bloom answers, not offset now, not delayed, perfectly synchronized. Our breaths meet in the thickness of the pane, mingling in forms no eye can see. In the reflection, I watch myself. For a moment, my mirror self moves independently. He smiles a second before I do, lifts his hand a heartbeat before mine, but instead of dread, I feel recognition. He presses his palm to the glass. I mirror him. Warmth spreads through the contact point, not physical warmth, but a sense of being seen, fully, across scales and concepts and impossibilities. In the frost between us, words form. Not end. I laugh, a small broken sound. On the glass, the frost rearranges, slowly, patiently, spelling out something closer to what it thinks I need. No end. I nod. We have been so obsessed with endings, with the end as punctuation, as comfort, as a way to close the book and walk away. But here, in the lung of the universe, there are only breaths in and out, cycles of attention and oblivion. No clear lines between inside and outside. No final curtain. I lean my forehead against the glass. My breath fogs, its breath fogs. The whole pane becomes one shared cloud, swirling with patterns. I close my eyes and breathe in. The band is not a sound anymore. It is the feeling of my heart beating in time with something unimaginably vast. We are already inside. We always were. And now perhaps we know it. The end.